Hi, it's Gillian here. I want to tell you a bit of a story about a journey that I've been on for a little while now, which has been about letting go of perfectionism and embracing my vulnerability and sharing that with the world. I've been a perfectionist for as long as I can remember. I thought it used to stem from my school days. So when I was in primary school, I went to a small rural school, and there was only 8 people in my year group who were part of a bigger composite class. But we had to do a test every Friday, and where we were placed in that test determined where we got to sit the next week. So if you were in the top 4 of my year group, you got to sit at the table that was furthest away from the teacher. And if you were in the bottom group, the bottom 4, you had to sit in the table closest to the teacher. And so every week I strive to be in the top table. And you can understand how that might bring about a need to always do your best, a need to be perfect, because I didn't want to fall into that bottom table. Now, for years I thought that was the reason behind perfectionism, and it's only fairly recently that the realities come to light for me. You see, there was a lot more to it than that. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, and it's only since then that I've realised that he was most probably a narcissist. Certainly had a lot of narcissistic tendencies, and his love appeared to be conditional on me doing well. He would go into silent treatments. He had next to no empathy. When you were in his good books, you were in his really good books. But in essence, his love was conditional, and I never truly felt like I got it. He provided for me in all the material ways, but not emotionally. And so what I realised is that actually my need to do well in these tests at school wasn't just related to that. It was related to the fact that I was worried about going home and telling him that I was in the bottom table that week, and fearful of the impact that would have on his love for me, fearful of his reaction to it, whether he'd go into silent treatment, be disappointed with me, etc. And so throughout my life, I've had these tendencies to try and be perfect, to try and be the best that I can absolutely be, setting myself really high standards, really high bars that were never achievable for anyone, and then beating myself up when I didn't reach them. But being a perfectionist, it served me through the years. So I did really well at school, did well at university, got a good job, had a good career, all because of my desire to kind of be the best I could be, but push myself that bit further. But there's a dark side to perfectionism as well, which you may have experienced it if you have this trait too. So along with perfectionism, because you're setting these incredibly high standards for yourself, comes this judgment, this self-criticism, this guilt, this blame, this never-ending constant dialogue with yourself that is about not being good enough and not fulfilling what you should be, because you're just not quite there. You're never perfect enough. And it's tiring and it's draining, and it has an impact on your mental health, and I found that out to my detriment. So for the last 20 years, I have suffered from mental health disorders, suffered from binge eating disorder, postnatal depression. I've had post-traumatic stress disorder. I've had periods of depression. And most likely they're all related to this critical inner voice that I have, that tells me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not perfect, that who am I to be loved. And that critical inner voice, I've given her a name. She's Geraldine. And Geraldine talks to me in the way that I would never ever talk to somebody I cared about. She talks to me in a way that makes me feel judged, makes me feel shamed, makes me feel like I'm not worth loving. And so it's only coming to recognize this and understanding that, it's not normal, it's not good for us to judge ourselves, to criticize ourselves this much. It's only through realizing that and starting to acknowledge and recognize Geraldine that I've been able to move on. And really, it's become about making her my best friend. So having dialogue with her, understanding. So all she's really trying to do is to keep me safe, to get love. So she wants me to be perfect because she feels that is how you get love, that love is conditional on being perfect. And we know that's not the case, but that's how she's been brought up. And so I have these conversations with her that are about it being okay not to be perfect, that I love her, that other people love her, that it's not conditional on her being perfect, that the people that are there for me will be there regardless. It's kind of a process of reparenting, I guess. And so coming to terms with that, making Geraldine my best friend, and the next step, which is where the vulnerability comes in, starting to share that. So I shared my mental health journey on a blog recently. I'm sharing so much more of myself and opening so much more of myself up, which is hugely vulnerable and hugely scary. But through doing that and through showing my imperfections, through admitting I'm not perfect and it's all right, or I don't have all the answers here, or I really need some help just now. And through doing that, what I found is not less love, but more. So more connection with people, more understanding, more empathy, more compassion, more love for me with all my flaws and all my imperfections than I can ever have imagined possible. And so through connecting deeper with myself, I've been able to start to form much, much deeper connections with other people, be that friends or clients or colleagues. So I guess there's 4 themes that I've realised as I've kind of reflected on this, 4 things that were really important for me. The first was around really understanding the root cause of my perfectionism. So what is it back in my past that has led me to this? I'd always thought it was about my schooling, but actually when I dug deeper and when I started to understand, it was much more than that. And it was only through recognising that I was able to start to tackle it. The second has been around these things that we may see as flaws. Actually, more often than not, they serve us in some way. So my perfectionism served me in a way, and it also had a dark side. And understanding that light and the dark of what makes us up is important, because we fall into habits because they serve us in some way. We might not understand why, but they do. Thirdly, making friends with Geraldine. So recognizing that voice inside my head and loving her and reassuring her and having those conversations with her has been so powerful. And finally, being open, being vulnerable, being authentic, being me, and not having to feel like I have to put on this facade of this perfect, capable, composed, always has it right, always knows what she's doing women, that actually I'm flawed, I'm not perfect, I'm perfectly imperfect, just as we all are, and that I will be loved because of that, not in spite of it. Becoming vulnerable and being open, like I said, it's really driven connection for me. And I'd love to invite you to a series that myself and my good friend and colleague Heather are running over the course of the next few weeks, called the V Movement. So we're going to be sharing with you on a Thursday for an hour or so over lunchtime some tips and tools to help you embrace your vulnerability, to help you really get connected with yourself, and through doing that, connect with others. If you'd like to join us, or if you want any more information, then the link and details are in the comments of the post. Thanks for listening, everybody. Loves you all.